A very good evening and welcome to the news tonight, where we get you the day's top developing stories from India and across the world. I'm Tracy Shilshi and here are the headlines. Capping 3 weeks of protests and acrimony, monsoon session of Parliament finally comes to an end. Both houses are adjourned sine die. But the political fight continued outside Parliament. Leaders of Congress and the NDA face off over who is responsible for the complete washout of the monsoon session. A huge relief for Maggi. The Bombay High Court revokes the ban on the instant noodles, but it will be back in markets only after it clears fresh tests by accredited labs. Ending days of uncertainty, Pakistan confirms that Sartaj Aziz will arrive in New Delhi later this month for the National Security Advisor level talks with India. And Pakistan military court sentences 6 militants to death for their role in the Peshawar school attack. 140 people, mostly children, were killed in that attack. Top story this evening. The monsoon session of Parliament ended today as both houses were adjourned sine die. From daily protests by the opposition to the suspension of 25 Congress MPs for 5 days, the session witnessed a lot of drama. The opposition protested over various issues, including the Vyapam scam, the Lalit Modi scandal, and even a demand for the release of findings of the caste-based census. Here's a comprehensive report.
With most of the monsoon session washed out, Lok Sabha Speaker Sumitra Mahajan expressed disappointment with the way proceedings were disrupted this time.
I had to take this tough action as a last resort and a last option. I'm sure that the chair will not be forced to resort to this step in future. In the current session, however, I am pained to say that we lost more than 34 hours due to interruptions.
The Vyapam scam and Lalit Gate were the main reasons proceedings were disrupted, so much so that 34 hours were lost to the uproar, while just a little over 47 hours proved fruitful. The monsoon session witnessed 7 sittings of the Lok Sabha. During this time, 10 bills were tabled, out of which 6 were passed in the lower house. A discussion on sustainable development goal was also held. The last day also witnessed opposition protests. Parties including the Congress, left parties, Samajwadi Party and the RJD walked out over their demands.
Unfortunately, our friends from the main opposition party have chosen to go out of the house on some pretext or other. So I don't want to pursue it today because the last day I wanted to end with a smooth and happy note. So I request the Speaker that we will be taking up this legislative business in the next session of the Parliament.
The situation was not much different in Rajya Sabha. More than 82 hours were lost to disruptions. In the 17 sittings in the upper house, just over 9 hours of work was done. 3 bills were withdrawn by the government and 2 appropriation bills were returned. The issues of the opposition protests were the same in Rajya Sabha too. But the government was also cornered over the non-implementation of the Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act, signing of the Naga Peace Accord and the appointment of the Governor of Bihar. However, on the last day, peace prevailed.
Because let us have a adjournment on a peaceful note. Therefore, adjournment on a peaceful note.
Sir, I agree that we should end with a
peaceful note.
Peaceful and happy note.
Yeah.
Adjourn the House to 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
12 o'clock we'll have...
Yeah, we will have said. Okay.
The government was on the offensive in both houses this time. Even as it expressed willingness to discuss all contentious issues, it also accused the opposition of indulging in obstructionist politics, thereby impeding the country's growth story. With inputs from Pranav Goswami and Kriti Mishra, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And even after both houses were adjourned, the political fight continued on the streets. While Congress held protests against the government's attitude on several issues, NDA leaders took on the opposition, especially the Congress, holding them responsible for a washout of the monsoon session. Here are the details.
2 protest rallies led by 2 sides inside the house. The rhetoric, which was almost a daily affair during the entire
All right, we'll come back to that story in just a bit. We'll show, of course, we were talking about how it's been a total washout of the monsoon session. 3 weeks of completely no work, 9 hours approximately is what, of course, has been officially tabled. Purnima Joshi of the Hindu Business Line joining us, in fact, in studio this evening. Purnima, as far as the key low points are concerned, clearly no high points there, definitely, of this monsoon session. But if you talk about the low points, what, according to you, was it? Was it the Congress's the obstinance of not being able to, not allowing any work in both houses? Or was it the action of the Speaker to suspend those 25 MPs? What, according to you, was the lowest point?
Well, I just think that, the language used from both sides, it's not unprecedented for the opposition to behave in this fashion. I mean, we have seen the BJP behaving in a similar fashion in December 2010, when they were demanding a JPC on 2G. I think the restraint from the government side was missing somewhat, and on the last day, this kind of debate is really literally like a street fight, with both sides hurling accusations. I thought the last day was the lowest point, where, the external affairs minister of the country accusing the other side of, stealing money, quid pro quo. From the other side, accusations coming. This kind of exchange, I mean, I've seen very rarely in Parliament, I mean, I've seen the opposition hurling accusations at the government, but there was surprising combativeness from the ruling benches, which, I personally think that, okay, you suspend MPs, and what is the intention behind all of this? Is to conduct business of the House. The whole effort from the Treasury bench's side as well as the Speaker's side should be to restore order so that you could discuss business and get crucial legislations passed. Now, in that, I'm afraid the ruling side has not been very successful. The ruling side comes with a certain agenda to Parliament. And the opposition's agenda, and we must not forget that we have an opposition which has been completely decimated, So the Congress's motives or objectives in coming to this Parliament session are different from the government's objectives. Is that Mr. Rahul Gandhi wants to make himself relevant. He wants to prove his leadership skills. So he would like to be relevant to political discourse, which Congress with 44 MPs has been rather not been able to do in the last 1 year. They've been decimated in the Lok Sabha elections. Yes. But to handle that, I have seen from the BJP during Mr. Vajpayee's time, you had parliamentary affairs ministers like Pramod Mahajan and Sushma Swaraj herself, who had extremely cordial relationship with all other parties. And, mind you, Congress was leading the agitation, but they were not supported fully by the regional parties who had different views on different issues. Now, how did you manage to unite them? By suspending MPs, I think what the Speaker managed to do was to unite the opposition.
Make things worse for the ruling government.
The initiative lies with the ruling party and Congress. I'm afraid, this level of, if you had to conduct a debate, then, why leave it to the last day in Parliament when, I'm sorry, from the Congress's side.
And you had all these questions that you wanted to address Ms. Swaraj herself, and the government was giving you a chance to do that in Parliament. But, they had all these questions outside Parliament, but in Parliament, they did not go ahead with that. You do that on the second last day. Talking about the Congress's role in this, do you think they've really, what with India Inc. also upset with them, do you think they've lost out on this, what could have been a big, shining point for the Congress, a rejuvenated look?
I think something went wrong on the last day, but overall, if the strategy is to make yourself politically relevant, I don't think the Congress has lost out at all. I mean,
Okay.
Rahul Gandhi is the talking point. He's made himself relevant just by disrupting the business of the House,
Yes.
which the Congress was not managing to do in the last 1 year. They did that in the... And, last day, I thought if they had to agree to this, then why not agree to this earlier?
Yes.
They were still saying the Prime Minister should come and reply to the debate, which he did not. So in that, I think the Finance Minister and the Foreign Affairs Minister both were very good. Their performances, they literally sort of made the Congress arguments
Yes.
seem a little... not so strong as to disrupt a whole session. And if the Congress had an argument that Mrs. Swaraj did misuse her office to favor a friend or a commercial acquaintance, then they were not being able to make it that
Yes.
forcefully. However, I think overall, Mr. Rahul Gandhi would be delighted with this session. He's made his point. He's made himself the talking point. And but I'll give you an example. For instance, the BJP, the Treasury benches,
Yes.
were in between able to reach out to the other parties. Mulayam Singh Yadav, for instance. We saw Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav getting up in Parliament and saying this is not the way to go about it, and please let's have a meeting in the Speaker's office and
right.
let's sit together and talk about it. And the Congress, the slogan shouting halted for a while.
But of course,
and
eventually
they were
we did
confused.
see what
They
it
were
eventually
confused. They were
turned out to,
confused.
not just in-house, but even after the House is adjourned, it happened outside Parliament as well. Sorry, Puni, we're running short of time, but thank you so much for joining us and, taking us through what eventually happened those 3 weeks. Of course, no surprise. It has been quite a disappointment, really, for those who've been watching Parliament. But thanks so much for joining us. And in fact, let's head on to more news. And after days of uncertainty, Pakistan has confirmed that Sartaj Aziz will come to India for the NSA-level talks on the 23rd of this month. The Pakistani National Security Advisor said that he will be holding talks with his counterpart Ajit Doval in New Delhi. The decision to hold the NSA-level talks was taken when the PMs of the two countries met in Russia last month. But the final decision to attend the meeting was taken only after Sharif's approval, who returned late last night from his 3-day visit to Belarus. Both sides are tight-lipped, though, about the agenda of the meeting. However, India is expected to highlight the issue of terrorism in the backdrop of the 2 terror attacks in Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir. According to sources, Pakistan too is preparing to counter India's charges during the meeting.
At India's request, the 2 prime ministers met in Ufa, Russia on the 10th of July, and they agreed that the 2 national security advisors will meet in Delhi, and so I'll be going there later this month, on 23rd of August.
Well, the NSA talks will be held under the cloud of 2 major terror strikes in Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir recently, as well as ceasefire violations by Pakistan, which continue. Firing, in fact, along the LOC and border areas are continuing, leaving villagers at the front line in a state of panic.
Pakistan violated ceasefire for the 5th consecutive day along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. Mortar shells were fired at residential areas in Poonch. According to the security officials, the heavy firing was an apparent bid by Pakistan to help militants infiltrate into Indian territory.
पिछले 4-5 दिन से पाकिस्तान की तरफ से मॉर्टर शेलिंग भी हो रही है और छोटे हथियारों से भी फायर हो रहा है, तो हमें जैसे कि एसएसपी साहब ने हुक्म बख्शा है कि जिस तरह भी फायर होगा, रात को अगर कहीं फायर होता है तो सुबह हमें वहाँ पे एसओजी साथ लेकर तो उस इलाके की सर्च करते हैं, कहीं पाकिस्तान ने फायरिंग की आड़ में क्रॉसिंग तो नहीं करवा दी.
The constant firing has left residents of border villages horrified. Schools and other educational institutions in the area have remained shut for most of the week.
तकरीबन 15 दिन से कंटिन्यूसली यहाँ पे फायरिंग हो रही है, जिससे हमारे जो है यहाँ गांव के जो लोग हैं बहुत परेशान हैं. खास करके हमारा जो स्कूल्स हैं, तो बच्चे जो हैं वो यहाँ पर पढ़ाई के लिए बहुत परेशान हैं.
In Shopia, a grenade blast near a mosque left 8 people injured. In another grenade attack by suspected militants in Srinagar's Khanyar area, 4 police and a CRPF personnel were injured. The attacks on security forces and ceasefire violations have put strains on relations too. The Indian Army has refused to exchange sweets with its Pak counterpart on the Independence Day, which has been a custom for long. It remains to be seen if all these developments will have its effect on the NSA talks later this month. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, in some news coming in from Pakistan, the army has announced death penalty to 6 militants linked to the Peshawar school attack in which at least 140 people, mainly children, were killed. A seventh accused in the case was given a life sentence. The military court was set up after the attack in December last year. In response to the attack, Pakistan had lifted a 7-year moratorium on executions. It had also amended the constitution to allow for the establishment of military courts to try terror suspects. Since then, 200 people have been put to death in Pakistan. A quick break here. It's still ahead. News from China. The death toll rises to 44 in the massive explosion that rocked its port city. Details in a bit.
Today we bring to you the Prevention of Corruption Amendment Bill 2013.
The amendments which have come in this particular bill, they are pretty much targeting the bribe givers in terms of corporate houses.
Care should be taken so that honest civil servants are able to discharge their duties.
The whole framework of the Prevention of Corruption Act has been weakened.
Watch Law of the Land Saturday at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Now, the rupee reversed early gains to fall below the key 65 per dollar mark on Thursday. After hitting a low of 65.23 per dollar, it closed at 65 rupees 10 paise. The 2-year low comes after September 2013, when the country was struggling with slow growth and rising deficits. The rupee's fall has been intensified over the last 3 days following China's unexpected devaluation of its yuan currency. China cut the reference rate for yuan on the 3rd straight day today. The central bank put the yuan's central parity rate at 6.4010 yuan per US dollar, a drop of 1.11% from Wednesday's 6.3306. The new rate comes after China adopted a more market-oriented method of calculating the currency rate in a move widely seen as a devaluation. Meanwhile, in a major relief for Nestle and Maggi fans, the Bombay High Court today lifted the nationwide ban on the instant noodles. The court said that fresh tests are required to prove that the popular snack does not contain excess lead. Here are the details.
Maggi noodles may soon make a comeback in the shops. The Bombay High Court quashed the June 5 order of the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, banning the brand and its 9 variants. A 2-judge bench of the Bombay High Court said the food regulator acted in an arbitrary fashion and did not follow principles of natural justice. It, however, added that in order to justify its ban, the FSSAI may test 5 samples of Maggi in 3 labs accredited by the National Accreditation Board for Testing and Calibration Laboratories.
The court has said that the samples which are there in the possession and custody of the petitioner will be tested by 3 laboratories. If those laboratories find that if the lead is within the permissible limits, then only they will be allowed, that is Nestle will be allowed to sell its product after a period of 6 weeks from the time when these laboratories conduct the fresh test.
The government has welcomed the court order.
It's a very welcome step because I've always maintained that clear-cut protocols need to be set down for the industry to follow, and which should be very clear for whether it's the testing labs, they should also know, and it's the industry also who should know how the testing is being done.
With the ban revoked, Nestle India assured it will comply with the court order to undertake fresh tests. The ban on its popular snack had hit Nestle India's earnings, and the company
standalone loss of 64.40 crores for the June quarter, its first quarterly loss in more than 3 decades. Meanwhile, the government's claim for 640 crore rupees in damages from Nestle will be heard by the country's top consumer forum on Friday. The ruling of the quasi-judicial body will be legally binding. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With that, let's get you some more national news updates in Nationwide. The Supreme Court has issued a notice to the centre on a petition seeking to quash the appointment of the new CVC and the Vigilance Commissioner. A petition filed by a Delhi-based NGO had appealed that the appointments of KV Chaudhary and TM Bhasin breached the principle of institutional integrity. The Apex Court has sought a response within 2 weeks. The NCP has pulled out of the RJD-JDU alliance for the upcoming Bihar Assembly elections. The alliance turned sour after the party was offered just 3 seats for contesting in the polls. Of the 243 seats, the JDU and RJD will contest on 100 seats each, while the Congress will fight on 40. Former Madhya Pradesh cadre IAS officer Om Prakash Rawat was appointed as the new election commissioner today. With Rawat's appointment, the sole vacancy in the 3-member poll body has been filled. Rawat is a 1977 batch officer and will have a tenure of more than 3 years. The Pakistani terrorist captured in the Udhampur attack earlier this month was brought to Delhi today for further investigations by the National Investigation Agency. A Jammu special court had handed over Naved's custody to the NIA for 14 days on Monday. He was captured alive by the villagers that he had held hostage during the attack. Suspected Maoists have killed a village panchayat sarpanch and his deputy for allegedly being police informers in Chhattisgarh's Bijapur district. The 2 men were killed on Wednesday night. 1 man was seriously injured in the attack. International news, and at least 50 people were killed and over 700 injured in 2 explosions in China's port city of Tianjin. Although the cause of the blast is not clear, they originated at a warehouse site that stored dangerous chemicals. Environmental experts have warned of the long-term consequences from the explosions. Here are more details.
Smoke billowing over burnt buildings, charred containers and vehicles. Scenes at China's industrial district of Tianjin, where 2 explosions, the second one equaling 21 metric tons of TNT or the magnitude 2.9 earthquake, went off on Wednesday night. The explosions caused a huge fireball that could be seen from space. Buildings within a 2-kilometer radius had windows blown out, while office blocks were destroyed and hundreds of cars burnt out.
I'd like to offer my condolences to the Chinese people for the terrible disaster that's occurred in Tianjin. I was in Tianjin yesterday morning and had an opportunity to see this vibrant city. I have every confidence that the authorities and the emergency services will do everything necessary to minimize the loss of life and to restore the city to normal working as soon as possible.
The blasts originated at a warehouse owned by a company that deals in dangerous chemicals. The reason for the blasts is not clear. Firefighting efforts were suspended on Thursday because there was no information about the nature of the dangerous goods stored at the warehouse.
像安全品的存放，像这个就是这个危险物品易燃易爆的这个存放，可能他们在操作上头肯定有失误的地方，造成了这么大的损失，所以这个我觉得肯定要追责。这个不光是企业，这个可能政府监管也可能有不到的地方。
我弟弟等于是我们是从北京知道他们这里发生爆炸的消息的，然后我们早上起来5点多马上坐车来到这里寻找他，直到现在没有结果。 说是有7辆消防车，然后和好多那个消防官兵都遇难了。
Residents who were forced to evacuate have taken refuge in makeshift camps. With the strong smell of chemicals hanging in the air and fears of contamination, environmental experts are calling for monitoring the long-term effects of the explosions. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now let's get you some cricket action. And centuries from opener Shikhar Dhawan and captain Virat Kohli put India in a commanding position in the first test against Sri Lanka. India were bowled out for 375 runs in their first innings with a substantial lead of 192 runs. Continuing the fine form from day one, both batsmen were involved in a 228-run partnership for the 3rd wicket. Sri Lanka got some momentum back in the afternoon session, taking 4 wickets, including centurions Dhawan and Kohli and Ajinkya Rahane for a duck. Wicketkeeper Saha struck a useful half-century to push India's lead further. Spinner Tharindu Kaushal took 5 wickets for the horse. In the second innings, Lankan openers faltered again though. Ashwin and Mishra took them out before they ended day 2 at 5 runs for the loss of 2 wickets.
I feel my short selection has got better, so that's why I'm not getting out on 20-30s or not giving more chances to the opposition, and that's made the major difference.
Indian shuttlers Saina Nehwal and PV Sindhu enter the quarterfinals of the Badminton World Championship in Jakarta. World number 2, Saina defeated Sayaka Takahashi of Japan in straight games. 11-seeded Sindhu stunned the reigning Olympic champion Li Shuru of China in 3 games to enter the last 8. In the women's doubles, Jwala Gutta and Ashwini Ponnappa also advanced to the quarterfinals after beating the Japanese duo of Reika Kaukiwa and Miyuki Maeda in the 3rd round.
The apple cart of the 6th.
And now let's get you some more sports news updates in Sports Beat. Former Indian cricketer Sourav Ganguly has been appointed as the brand ambassador for the Under-17 Football World Cup in 2017. Ganguly co-owns the Indian Super League franchisee Atletico de Kolkata and is known for his love for the game. The World Cup will be held for the first time in India. Indian men came back from a poor start to beat Spain in the hockey series today. India defeated Spain 4-2 in the final game to win the 3-match series of the European Tour by 2-1. After losing the first game 1-4, the Indian team came back with a 2-0 victory in the second match on Tuesday. The tour is a preparatory event for the upcoming World League final, which will be played in India later this year. Indian archers picked up the second slot in both the men's and women's competitions in the qualification round of the Archery World Cup. The men's troika of Mangal Singh Champia, Bulbul Marandi and Rahul Banerjee accumulated 1,981 points, while the women's team, comprising Deepika Kumari, Pomila Devi and Rimil Biruli, scored 1,933. With 58 goals and breaking nearly as many records across with his competitive matches last season, Lionel Messi leads the race for the Best UEFA Player award. UEFA has nominated Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez for this year's award. The UEFA Best Player in Europe prize is voted on by journalists from all 54 UEFA member associations. The winner will be announced at the Champions League group stage draw on the 27th of August. And that's all we have for you on the news tonight. From everyone here, good night.